Okay, let's keep mapping. Let's keep analyzing spatial things here. So, where we left off was starting to look at and deal with. Oh, I misspelled land cover. This is land cover. Oh, well, I'll leave it. This is what happens when you're making this up as you go and clicking multiple things. Say lovey. Okay, so where we left off was we were starting to look at this unwieldy land cover data set. And what it's showing, it's this very colorful thing. Let me zoom in. And I've turned off some of the other stuff. In fact, I'll even turn off counties. And so it's a raster. So it's all these grid cells. But the colors are connected to these numbers. And the numbers actually mean something, reference something. But in this case, it's just numbers. Like if I click on the blue, out here it says 11. You can see this in the contents right there. And what that means is, if you read through the metadata and all of that, it means open water. The red gets into different types of developed land and so on. And because this is a larger data set, it's a national data set that they gave us, we have a handful of things that aren't applicable to this area. And so we just have this no data. Whole thing's a mess. And you can, kind of scroll through and see all that. So a good tool here when dealing with raster data and starting to do analysis of raster data and turn it into something meaningful is to use what's called reclassification, where we're going to change these values. So wherever it's, value 11 right here, we're going to turn that into something that's a little more meaningful. Okay? And I'll walk you through this so you can see it. But to do this, we go into our Spatial Analyst tool box. We have the Reclass tool set, and we have the Reclassify tool, just the one that says Reclassify. Okay? And if you couldn't track it down that way, you could also just search Reclassify. That's what we want to do. And a heads up, I don't know if that's the case with this one. With some of these, multiple extensions have the same tool. So we're getting at this from Spatial Analyst. There's a chance, can't remember if it is the case, but that 3D Analyst, say, a different extension, has this same tool. So if I were to search Reclassify, I might get a few results where it says reclassify and like in parentheses it says Spatial Analyst, reclassify parentheses 3D Analyst, and so on. It's the same tool, so don't get hung up on that stuff. When you're searching and you see what looks like repeats but different extensions, it's just you kind of get some overlap with some of this stuff. Again, not sure if that's the case with this one, but worth mentioning. All right, in here, input raster, I want to bring in my land cover, right? Or land cover right here. The reclass field is going to be value. So what it defaults to is good. And then click unique, and that'll bring up all our different options that we have here. And it's going to kind of automatically do some stuff for you. Now we could do this and it would be decent, but we're going to be a little more brutal in our reclassification. We're going to try to simplify some stuff here. And if I pull up this is the old window that would pop up, but I think, yeah, this table here is showing what we're doing. So 11 is open water. We're going to reclassify that to 1, okay, which is already done for us here. Cool. 21 is developed open space. We're going to call that 2. All right, fine. But we're also going to get 22, 23, and 24. We also want to reclassify that as 2. So we need to come in here and just change that to 2. So 21, 22, 23, and 24 will be 2. 31 will be 3. And the idea with all of this, it's like with this developed land, I don't need nuance. I just want to know, what are we dealing with in broad strokes? So the 40s, 41, 42, and 43, which are deciduous forest, evergreen forest, mixed forest, like I don't need to know if it's, pine needles or leaves that we're dealing with or whatever. So I'm going to make just in the 40s here, just change those to 4. Okay, 52, we're going to make that 5. And so you can follow along with me, or you can do what they're saying in there in the tutorial. 71 is going to be 5, 81 and 82 are going to be 5. And then what do we have? Look at this here. So 90 and 95 will be 6. And 127 should also be no data. So we're going to make that 0. And we should be okay there. We then want to go in, make sure this name is something that makes sense. So we're just going to, we can stick with this reclass idea. And I'm just going to call it reclass land. And I'll do the Katrina onto it. I think that looks good. I'm just kind of doing, one quick check of what I've done. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. So much simpler right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Colors are a little more intense. What's also cool because we have our counties mask, that it's just within the counties themselves. Here, it's kind of a lot hurting my eyeballs, but we simplified. Okay, that's the goal. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because that worked and I did something. I'm going to remove this initial land cover one just because it's too much. I'm also, just to keep things nice and neat and simple and so I don't get confused with stuff, I'm going to get rid of this elevation Katrina. And I'm even going to get rid of this elevation Katrina feet because really all I need are the flooded land one, right? Which was the idea of it's either under 15 feet or equal to that or over, right? And then this reclassification thing here, okay? All I need. So I'm just keeping it simple and lean and not getting overwhelmed with all these different rasters that I'm producing. That's why I'm doing this. Now, what we can do, and this is kind of cool with our little flooded land binary thing, is we can combine these two rasters right here to just get the flooded land, but have it separated by land cover. Okay? So let me pull this up. I'm kind of just going off my own notes and from what I remember here. But this next step, I get into what we're going to do is create this, isolate the flooded land cover thing. So we're going to use the times tool to simply multiply what they call flooded land by rec land cover, whatever. So it's the idea. We're just going to multiply each by each. And basically what it gets us is if it's flooded, it's multiplied by 1. So the value stays the same. And if it's not flooded, it's multiplied by 0. You dig? This is fantastic. So if we go back into, it should be math, down here, times, and so we'll just do that reclass land and flooded land. This is why it's also nice to get everything out of the contents. So we're going to multiply it by that. We'll call it something meaningful, like flooded LC for land cover. And I'm going to put Katrina just, again, so I don't get it confused with the Wilma stuff. That, well, I'm not doing it, you're doing it, but you get the idea. Let's hit run. Let's see if this works. Beautiful. Okay, so let's turn off these other things. So the 0, again, is not flooded. So there's nothing of value for us here. But the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's our different stuff that we have. And what we're going to do to make it so we're not even looking at all these numbers is we're going to add a field here. So let's right click. In fact, before we do that, let's remove this. Let's remove that. Let's just look at our baby we made right here. We're going to save. Okay, so let's open up the attribute table. So right click, attribute table. And it gives, with rasters, it's kind of simple like this. The object ID, it's that, unique identifier we talked about in the last class. The value is the actual important stuff that we're looking at. And count is how many cells have that value, right? Or have the value of 5 or 3 or whatever it might be. Okay, so what we want to do is add a field here. Let's click on this. Okay, the field name we'll call type. Okay, the data type, we want it to be text. And then the length over here, it defaults to 255. We don't need that. 20 should be good. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to save up above. And if I come back, voila, there's our type field, and it gives that null value because nothing exists right here yet, right? We're going to enter in stuff. And so in here, we can actually double click and we can type a real value. So I'm going to put not flooded for 0. Okay. For 2, actually, oh yeah, I got confused. Sorry, I looked at the object ID. Don't do that. For 1, we're going to put water. Okay, so it means that in that area it was already water, so not necessarily the end of the world. 2 is developed. Come on. 3. Wait, no. See, I'm doing it again. No, 3 was developed. Here we'll don't do it like that. There, let's do that. That'll be easier to see. So 2 is barren. Okay. 3 is developed. 4, forest. 5 is agriculture. And 6 is wetlands. Okay. So now we have, actually what we're dealing with. If I were to come out here and click on, hold on, let's just easier to do it this way. Click there, whatever I clicked on, it would say, yeah, it's object ID, value, all that stuff, but wetlands, it would make sense to me, right? And we could even, if I'm making a map of this stuff, I could, right click here, go to symbology. Okay, in this, field 1, I could do type. And I could change, I could pick something not quite so psychedelic, but still, unique colors. And figure out stuff. I could even just get rid of the not flooded thing, right? again, there's a lot going on here. There are different ways I could handle this stuff, and I know I should just move on, but I kind of obsess about this. Oh, because I did the other. Okay, a few different ways. Right? Don't. All right, forget it. Move on. Let it go. Okay, but you get the idea. We could actually have this and make a legend and just see that stuff. Should we need to do that? The issue though is that in terms of making a map and like having some kind of visual analysis of just seeing this stuff, there's a lot going on. And it's really hard to discern exactly what we're dealing with, what these, the amounts of different things are, and so on. So what we could do, instead is actually calculate what's the percentage here, right? Compared to everything else that we're dealing with, right? So therefore, if we look at this, what was flooded the most, the least, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the percentage here. And it's a case, this is one where if I come in, let's see, it's all that labeled stuff. In here, this determined percentage thing, it's very different. I think it was way easier back in the old ArcGIS desktop days. So this is where it gets a little confusing to read this and go over to this. And I might think it's easier simply because that's what I learned on. That's where my brain is. Maybe it is way better to do it this way, but nonetheless, it's a little trickier. So I've got, I'll go through, I've got some notes on how we change some of this stuff. So in here, we're going to right click on count and we're going to select, is it visualize statistics? I don't really want to visualize. Well, here, we got it over here. Again, I think it was easier the old way. But in terms of the total cells that we have, we've got, can I actually make note of this? So I've got my notepad and pen and all of that nearby so I can write stuff down. And so we've got some, okay? And it's 5,232,000. So all of these things. Now here's one issue actually. That's going to have the not flooded stuff as well, okay? What we want to do, so actually let's go back, let's close this. Let's just select, this should work, the ones that are actually flooded. So we're going to ignore not flooded. And let's right click, statistics, different number, look at that, yeah, perfect. So 1 million, oh perfect, and this has the data set, so that's the total, and here's what we have selected. Okay, so I'm going to write down a number. And one thing I'm going to point out is your number should be close to this. Oh no, my pen is dying. Let me find another pen. So I have 1,381,000. There we go. 689. Yours might be off a little bit from what I've found in working with other students. It's a case where, depending on the mask and maybe some rounding that my computer does and yours doesn't, ultimately not a big deal, but the numbers might be off a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe you have the exact same one, but don't flip out. As we move forward, as long as it's close, 1,300,000 something, you should be good. If it says like 4 million, yeah, there's an issue. We need to figure that out and go back and analyze and see what's up. But yeah, as long as it's relatively close, we're good. So we got that number there. Now I can close this. I'm going to go ahead and clear my selection before I move forward. And we're going to add, yeah, we're going to do 3 tables, or fields, rather. And in here, so this is grayed out because I already have this thing open, but I can just do it from here. Click to add a new field. My first one, I'm going to call percent. The data type, I'm going to, I want float in here, and that's all I need. Click another one. I'm going to call it acres. I'm going to make this one a float. And the other one, I'm going to do SQ miles. I want that to be float, so square miles. And in this alias, what I could do, I don't know if I want, maybe I just have a space in there. I don't want to have spaces over here, but in the alias, oops, I don't want that one. I think I can just do that. Here, save these edits. Yes. Click that. Save here. Did I get, okay, that's just there. Can I just, okay, right click there, delete. See, again, I'm used to doing this the old way, or I just do stuff in Excel or elsewhere. We'll talk about that a little later, either with this or in the, either in this video thing or later on in the class. But okay, so we got that. I come back here. I've got my values in here. Okay, so beautiful. Got all this. Now we're going to actually calculate these videos. Okay, so for percent, did I say video values? For percent, what I'm going to do is right click, calculate field. And this is the thing, it used to be, again, I think, used to be easier. We'll leave it as this. It's going to be count, double click that, yeah, divided by, what's my number? 1381689. Why didn't that show up? There we go. 1381689 times 100. All right, so it should look like this. Simple percentage calculation. And so what this is we're saying, okay, take the count field, the value here. So like for water, that 130,000 that we've got there, divide it by our total number that we have. And our not flooded thing is going to be a mess, but don't worry about it. And then multiply that by 100 to get a meaningful number. Okay, that's what we're doing. Everything else should be fine. And I'm going to hit apply. Beautiful. And so, yeah, if we look at this, the not flooded has 278%. That's silly. We just kind of ignore that one. Like if I really wanted to, I could just delete this whole value from here, but I'm not going to worry about that. Let me close this. But of these other ones, I can see that, okay, this is actually kind of good. Developed land. That's a tiny amount of the actual flooding that took place. Looks like wetlands were hit the hardest, which can be bad from an environmental standpoint. But from just a human surviving in the weeks after the disaster, that's a good thing right there. And that's kind of what wetlands help do when it comes to hurricane damage and some of this stuff. So cool, we've got some numbers right here. Okay, acres, similar thing, right click, calculate field. And with this one, I'm going to keep count, okay, in here. I want times, 900 divided by 046.68. Okay. And so with this, let me, oh wait, is that, no, okay, I'm good. And this came from, sorry, I'm tired. This is where I get to with some of the stuff when I'm trying to bust through these things. And I think the acres thing came from later on. And yeah, calculate acreage. That's where they come up with this stuff. So yeah, right here. That's where I was just pulling this from. And it all makes sense when you read through it. So I'll hit apply. And so the idea is we're looking at, the acres in question. All right, and so we got that. We can move forward, yeah. Right click here, calculate field. Square miles would equal, actually we don't want count, we just want this acres divided by 640. Okay, and we've got our square mile value as well. In this field, I'll try to just delete that from there. That was my little oopsie. Okay, but we've got some values in here because what we want with this is not just to see where this stuff is, but to get a sense of what's going on here. Okay, that's the idea. Now, let me pull this up. Let me go through here. Yeah, fill this out. Don't worry about it. Presentation. Oh, it doesn't really. Oh, a table showing various. Does it not talk about a graph or chart? Or is that something else? Sorry, I'm at the point where I'm rambling with this stuff. Okay. Don't worry about it. Here's the deal. Here's what I want you to be able to do with this stuff anyway. Is we've got this table in here, and we went through and did the clunky, calculations in ArcGIS. But what you can do, which is actually, I think, a lot easier, especially when you don't need to be delivering a map necessarily, but a table, some numbers and all that, is to right click on the feature class, raster, whatever in question, okay, and export the data, okay, itself into some new format. So from here, actually, no, I don't want disable or export raster. I want, can I do it from here? Yeah, do it from here now. Okay. So sorry. So don't right click here. Instead, just from the attribute table itself, these 3 lines go to export. Okay. From here, input table is this whole thing. Output table, call it whatever. But the main thing is I don't want it in this hurricane GDB. I want it elsewhere. Okay. I want to put it just in here in the main hurricane folder, and I'm going to call it flooded lc dot csv. Okay, and that CSV stands for comma separated values. It's saying turn this into this specific type of table. You're not going to let me? There we go. Okay, selected there. So that has to be selected. That looks like that. I'm going to hit OK. Oh, son of a gun. Okay, I'm going to hit OK again. That should be good. Let's hit OK. It says it completed. Now what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to actually look at this outside of ArcGIS. Let me pull this up. ArcGIS projects. Here, I'll bring this over so you can see it. When I call it hurricane. Yes, this flooded lc.csv. And it has that little Excel icon. I'm going to double click on that. By default, let's see, don't convert. I don't need to see scientific notation or anything like that. But in here, I have my different, numbers, data, all of this stuff, but it's now in Excel. And for my, thought with all this stuff, it's easier for me to do calculations in Excel. We're going to do more of this stuff throughout this abridged little semester. We'll actually do like a lot of cool stuff with things in Excel, but don't hesitate to leave ArcGIS whenever you can. If there's a tool on your computer that's going to make the job easier, then by all means, use it. Whether it's, I'm going to use, Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator to clean up my final map that I have. If I need to analyze some data, I'm going to throw it in Excel because it's a little easier to work with. At least that's the case for me. But that's the idea. That's what we want to do with this is be comfortable in moving from one program to another. And so what you can then do, I thought it was talking about, this is going to bug me. Let me go back up to our initial deliverables. What was that? Document, set up, is it after that? This is what, no, it's got to be even further up here. It'd be really good if I rehearsed what I was going to do. Oh, here it is. But I ain't got time for that. Yeah, deliverables. I'm not crazy. A bar graph showing percentage of total flooded land by land cover type. Yeah, that was one of my deliverables. I must have read through it. That's what I get for not following along beautifully. But when it comes to graphs in ArcGIS, it's ugly. Excel does a way better job, I think. And so it's looking at percentage of total flooded land by land cover type. Okay? Percent. I've got it right here. I've got this stuff here. I can make a chart with these values. In fact, let's do, I'm going to select these right here and insert. And we've got different options. It's a bar, right? So I just click on that and it's showing in here pretty quickly. It doesn't know that this is supposed to be percent or what's going on. It's got that generic chart title and you can, add things in here. I can, adjust this stuff, but it very quickly shows me in a visual sense the percentage, okay, which is on this axis right here of the land cover. Down here we see wetlands. By far was the most that was flooded here, developed tiny amount, barren, looks like, second place right there. You get the idea. And so what I can do, if I click out of the stuff, if it's no longer highlighted, it's fine. But I can always come back in here and I can adjust stuff. I can hand type. I can go in and mess with colors, the way it looks, right? Got some different things to do. Filter kind of gets in, or this, I think that's a filter. Yeah, chart filters. Gets into some of the stuff we can turn on, turn off. So this is more style, color choices, things like that. Axis title. We could add that, this little plus thing, and I could put land cover at the bottom. Percent flooded, percent of total, or however you want to phrase it. But I've got this here, and what I should be able to do is that from here, reset to my style. Or is it just as simple as, I forget, hold on. Let me come in here. Yeah, beautiful, baby. Okay, so yeah, that was just right click, Control C, copy, then open up a Word document and pasted in there. Okay, and I of course would do that after I made this pretty, but that way I could put it into a report or PowerPoint presentation or whatever. But this goes back to knowing your stakeholders, right? What are these people I'm presenting this stuff for? Like, who are they? How do they think? And all that. And as I said early on in this, when you start to deal with, people in charge, man, how should I put? So look, people in charge of us, they're so great, and they're so important and so busy. There's so much going on that they've got a lot going on. So let's be nice to them, right? It's not that they're a different breed of person at all. And it has nothing to do with their intellectual capacity at all. Now there's a lot going on. That's what it is. So we try to make this simple. Bar graphs. It's a simple thing, right? Colorful displays. In fact, even having these numbers in here, it's a little questionable. That might be too much. Get rid of those, but have just, bars. Bigger bar means more. Little bar means less. That makes life easier for these kinds of people making these kinds of decisions. So, do it. Think about what you're trying to produce. Okay, so that's how you would go in and do that. We've got the table itself showing these things, but we also have the that visual deliverable. So with all of this, we skip through this map showing elevation. We could make, with any of these, we could go back in and clean it up, right? A map of flooded land. We had that. A bar graph showing percentage of total flooded land by land cover type. That's what that would be. A map showing infrastructure and health facilities at risk from storm surge. Didn't get into that. And then this table showing various land types, measured in acre square mile. We got that there. So that last one, we'll just do this quickly and call it right here. What I could do, let's see what I would catalog in my, let's do this. Let's just do flooded land Katrina. Build pyramids, go ahead. Not a problem. Turn this one off. And then in the actual feature classes, hospitals. I said hospitals, there we go. We can see those that would be in, oh, look at that, built on high ground. Good move. Right, we can kind of look at some of these things. You zoom out, looks good. Like, just do, my goodness, it's like they planned for disaster in this area. Good on you. But you get the idea, right? With what we're doing here. That's what we could show. And I read through. Maybe I don't know if churches, if that was like a place for helping people, evacuation centers, stuff like that. These clearly, they're going to be in trouble. So that's the map they're talking about there, how you would go about that. I'm not going to get into how we would go in and, symbolize everything and put in a legend and that kind of stuff. You can read through the, the tutorial itself. You've been doing some of this stuff, but just think about that as you go through. How would I make this deliverable? What would I be showing to my stakeholders, right? And so finally, we got through all this stuff. We saw all these different things. Let me open up in here this 4.2. This is what you're going to be doing. We kind of went through all this stuff so you can see how to do it in 4.1. But with 4.2 here, similar idea, but it's Hurricane Wilma. also hurricane season in 2005. Storm surge approximately 8 feet. Gives you the different info. Have some deliverables, similar thing. But what it's getting into, explore the data, make sure you do this. But it's pretty, terse. Just do this thing, because you learn how to do these things in that 4.1. So what you're going to be turning in Canvas is not every single deliverable that we have here, but instead the deliverables I have listed out in here, showing me what happened with Hurricane Wilma. Okay, so that's what you're doing. So refer to these previous videos as previous work to get this stuff done. If you're running into trouble, something's not making sense or whatever, reach out to me. Also reach out to each other. You have that Pronto Messenger app available in Canvas, and work together. You're all doing the same stuff. That's good. But also feel free to reach out to me. But that's what you're turning in for this first exercise. Okay? There's a lot in here, but you can do it. So just kind of work through, try to make sense of it. Don't be afraid to fail and figure out what went wrong. You're gonna get through. You're gonna be able to do it. And we're gonna, this is pretty cool stuff that we're doing, and we're gonna go on to even cooler stuff in the next couple of weeks here. So, embrace it. Happy mapping. Have fun. I'll see you in the next video.